everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Mary and today we're going to talk about fashion, but not any kind of fashion. We're going to talk specifically about SHEIN. So I've talked about fast fashion plenty of times on this channel, like in the impact analysis, and I've also mentioned specific types of brands in my greenwashing videos and how they have a very blatant disregard for honesty overall and in general. However, I think it's time to talk about the worst of the worst. But before we do so, this video is sponsored. This video is sponsored by REN.
REN is a carbon offsetting program where you sign up with a monthly subscription and support sustainable projects you care about. The great thing about REN is that they don't only focus on tree planting programs. They really show that sustainability is more than just one thing. So REN supports a wide range of green programs around the world, including green energy and natural conservation. I love that REN offers us insight into where our money is going and how we're supporting these projects. This level of transparency is not something we often see, and it really makes them stand out in the crowd that is the carbon offsetting industry. Also, the first 100 people to sign up with the link in my description will get the first month of their donation covered for free by REN. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Now let's take a look at SHEIN.
So if you have followed my channel for a hot second, you will know my overall stance on fast fashion. I haven't stepped foot in a fast fashion store in literally years and years. I buy primarily secondhand clothing. I also support the occasional sustainable business, but most of all, it's just pre-loved. However, I talk about fast fashion in a very broad umbrella term, but in light of recent findings, I think it's important to talk about SHEIN in particular. If you have been online for more than 5 minutes, you might have seen either a SHEIN shout out, a SHEIN haul, or a SHEIN collaboration, because they really double down on using influencers in their marketing. So I think it's time to talk about why SHEIN in particular is so awful, and why, even if you cannot cut out all fast fashion, you should definitely avoid them. First of all, what is SHEIN? SHEIN is owned by the parent company SewTop that was founded in 2008, and SHEIN describes itself as an international business-to-consumer fast fashion e-commerce platform that focuses on women's wear but also offers men's apparel, children's clothes, accessories, shoes, bags, and other fashion items. It upholds the philosophy that everyone can enjoy the beauty of fashion, and the brand was valued at $100 billion in April 2022, according to Bloomberg. SHEIN has created a massive social media presence by primarily working with influencers as their main strategy of marketing. And SHEIN Hauls, which is one of their primary ways of marketing their products, showcases tons and tons, dozens of bags being turned out so you can see sort of how much clothes you can buy for a limited amount of money. That is the shtick. The primarily attractive thing about a brand like SHEIN is the fact that they offer a bunch of different and very current trends and styles, and are very, very affordable. One of the talking points that I hear being repeated over and over, both from SHEIN themselves as well as from influencers that support them and just generally consumers, is that it feels really nice that there is now a brand that offers this level of accessibility of fashion. So even on a very limited budget, you can still try out all the styles that you see going around on the internet. The average price of an item on SHEIN's website is around $8. Now let's talk a little bit about SHEIN's business model, because SHEIN has zero transparency. Actually, to a laughable degree. There is no transparency inside. There's no information about where the clothes is being distributed from in China, and there's really no way for you to reach out to people, representatives, spokespeople, etc. It's also a privately owned company that do not disclose any of their annual revenues or statistics or sales figures or anything. So a lot of this is just estimates and guesswork. In 2020, it's estimated that SHEIN made roughly $10 billion, and in 2021, just 1 year later, the estimate was about $20 billion. So double up. And just some more context, SHEIN added roughly 314,000 new styles to their shop last year. With that amount of clothes being produced, distributed, and sold by SHEIN, a very reasonable question is, how are the people that are producing these clothes doing? A report from 2021 conducted by Public Eye gave a glimpse into SHEIN's factories in China. Several employees from 17 factories across 6 different cities were found to have 75-hour work weeks. 3 shifts a day, and only getting 1 day off a month. For context, China's labor laws specify a maximum of a 40-hour work week. And yes, a lot of other businesses and brands are also ignoring this law. Moreover, and I think this is one of the more interesting things, but the workers at the SHEIN factories are paid per item they produce. This means that the garment workers often work without a contract and also without the agreement of a flat-out rate. And the paid per item strategy also constitutes a very toxic, very exploitative work environment where workers have to work even harder simply just to have their basic needs met. In the paid per item system, there's really no space for salary negotiation, and that means there's a lot of space for exploitation. Public Eye's researcher who visited several factories could also report that there were no emergency exits and barred windows. Although SHEIN has a code of conduct on their US website that states that they provide a safe, hygienic and healthy workplace environment and that working hours should comply with local laws and regulation. Awkward. Anyway, let's move on to production. Now, fast fashion is named because of the fast pace with which products are designed and produced and distributed and sold. It usually takes a very short amount of time to create a product and distribute it, hence fast fashion. And prior to SHEIN, Zara was one of the fastest fast fashion companies where it only took a few weeks for a product to go from design idea to being produced in factories, to being distributed to stores and to be sold to consumers. However, SHEIN manages to do that in just 7 days. 7 days. Reportedly, SHEIN adds about 2,000 new styles to their webshop every single day. For comparison, Zara adds about 2,000 new items to their shop over a 30-day period. 2,000 items per day is absolutely unfathomable, in my opinion. And just for reference, this graph shows very well how much more clothing SHEIN is producing than other fast fashion companies. Every single day. Just 2,000 new styles every single... I keep saying it, but it does not make sense in my mind. The Business of Fashion reports that the reason for SHEIN's success can largely be attributed to its tech-driven approach, using AI software that plugs trending styles from social media and across the internet and puts them directly into computers on the factory floor. And yeah, I guess it is faster to produce clothing when you're not actually designing anything yourself, but rather you're copy-pasting from other designers, which is what they do a lot. There are countless examples of SHEIN stealing from small creators, small independent brands. However, assuming that they cared about design integrity is maybe a little bit far-fetched when they don't even care about the well-being of their workers. I'm not saying it's right what they do, it's definitely despicable, but I'm just not surprised. One of the funny things about SHEIN, it's not haha funny, it's tragic funny, but one of the things that makes SHEIN stand out as a business is the fact that they don't have massive factories. Actually, they use thousands of small suppliers spread out all the way through China. And usually these suppliers get orders of 50 to 100 pieces of a certain style, which is also very uncommon in the fast fashion industry. Usually brands create orders of thousands of pieces of clothing from one supplier, but that's not really what's happening here. It's also the thousands of pieces of clothing from large polluting factories that we often associate with overconsumption and overproducing. However, one thing to keep in mind is that it's much easier to trace and source and improve issues of abuse or waste or slavery or exploitation or pollution in a supply chain where you only have a limited amount of factories. Not that a lot of fast fashion brands are actually improving these issues, but they're doing it to a minimal degree whenever they get bad press. However, that becomes practically impossible in SHEIN's supply chain. It is completely impossible to find out where an issue is located or to find out, source, trace an issue regarding both abuse and environmental issues when you have thousands of suppliers. And as a result, as a consumer, whenever you buy from SHEIN, you have absolutely no idea what you're supporting. Or actually, you have a very good idea of what you're supporting, but there's no way that it can be guaranteed that slavery was not involved in this product, especially not when it costs $6. SHEIN has also accelerated the test and repeat method, which means that they are introducing a bunch of different styles that are extremely current, very trend-based, trends that are also very narrow, so they might not even be on trend in a week, in 2 weeks, etc. Based on trends that, exist online, where the lifespan of these things is incredibly short. But that doesn't really matter because only 6% of SHEIN's entire inventory is available for more than 90 days. It means they're producing a lot of disposable clothing. And that brings me to my next point of disposable clothing and overconsumption inclusivity. So there is a reason for SHEIN's incredibly low price tags. And it's not only not paying their workers fair wages, it's not only creating a toxic paper item environment, it's not only not actually designing their own products, but stealing designs from other brands. It also has to do with quality. So the majority of clothes offered by SHEIN is made from synthetic materials like polyester. And can you get good quality polyester? Absolutely. But not for $5 you can't. Polyester is a synthetic petroleum-based material that is incredibly cheap to produce. And a lot of fast fashion clothing is made from either polyester or polyester blends. And one thing that I've noticed with SHEIN clothing, now I don't have a lot of specific experiences with SHEIN clothing myself. I've never bought anything from SHEIN, but I have noticed a lot of SHEIN products in thrift stores. One of the reasons why that is I guess because of the very narrow, current, trendy business model. So a lot of the things you buy end up becoming like outdated or feeling out of style very quickly, so you donate it to a thrift shop. And a lot of the clothes doesn't seem like they've been worn a ton, but they're already falling apart because they were not in any way, shape or form built to last. And I guess a lot of consumers actually know this or are aware. I think it seems like a lot of consumers know that when they buy from SHEIN, quality or whether or not the package will even show up is a little bit of a gamble. But that doesn't really matter when tank tops are $1.50. And while other fast fashion companies are definitely doing this as well, it feels like SHEIN is taking the concept of disposable fashion to a whole new level. That means that they often end up marketing their products towards specific events. Are you going to a music festival? Are you going to a concert? Are you going to a party? And why won't you just want to wear the most current in-style trends that we see on TikTok right now? You can actually do that, and you don't even have to pay a lot of money to do that. And don't worry about it, because you don't even have to wear those things for a long time. Also, you won't really be able to because the clothes are falling apart. And some types of cultural or social events like music festivals becoming hotspots for trends and fashion helps facilitate this disposable clothing phenomenon. Like Coachella. There are other examples, but this was just right there. Obviously, SHEIN hasn't changed the main priority at music festivals for everyone in the world, but the availability of their products help facilitate this mentality. This consumer mentality that we can buy whole outfits simply just to wear to a music festival, only to never wear again. But everyone has access to do that now because it's so cheap. I know, very inclusive. And from a style and fashion perspective, I think it's honestly pretty interesting to see this development, because only a couple of decades ago, this type of behavior was reserved for really wealthy people and celebrities. You know, it wasn't uncommon for tabloids to criticize certain celebrities for wearing the same thing more than one time. And you know, it wasn't and isn't uncommon for celebrities to only wear a specific outfit one time. That's pretty normalized at this point. However, with the rise of SHEIN and ultra cheap fast fashion brands, this type of behavior is becoming accessible to everybody. And we are growing accustomed to that type of behavior really frighteningly quickly. I've seen a lot of creators and influencers defend their collaborations with SHEIN by pointing towards the fact that they are making fashion and beauty more easily accessible to everybody instead of, sustainable fashion that still has access and size inclusivity issues. They often point towards the fact that everybody deserves to feel current and trendy and beautiful. And that's really hard to argue with, because obviously feeling good about yourself shouldn't be reserved for people who have the budget to do it in a sustainable way, obviously. However, and there's always a however, no one is entitled to overconsumption. No one is entitled to buy whole outfits that they will only wear a couple of times. No one is entitled to switch out their entire wardrobe with dozens of new pieces of clothing on a whim. That's not a right that we as consumers just automatically inherently have. I feel like it was wrong and problematic when celebrities only wore pieces of clothing a couple of times, and it's still wrong when we do it. But exactly why is this a problem? I am so glad that you asked. So over the course of the last 2 decades, the production of clothing has doubled. Currently, we're producing around 100 billion pieces of clothing every single year. And you're probably thinking, well, we are such and such billions of people on the planet, that's not a lot of pieces of clothing per person. However, these pieces of clothing, the 100 billion pieces produced, only ends up being marketed and sold towards a small minority on the planet. The minority that overconsumes. The majority of people on the planet do not buy clothing in this quantity. Furthermore, which makes this even more hilarious in a very tragic, comical way, while the production of clothing has doubled, the amount of times we wear pieces of clothing has decreased by 36%. So we buy more clothes and we wear them less overall. And if you want to know more about why that inherently is a really big problem for our planet, for climate change, for our consumption patterns, I would recommend looking at both the impact of cotton video and the impact of fast fashion, where we go over some of the more general issues with the clothing, garment and textile industry. But back to SHEIN and the talking points I've seen from content creators sort of defending their collaborations. I think it's a very highly misunderstood concept that we as consumers are entitled to switch out our entire wardrobes whenever we feel like it. I realize that the overall sustainable fashion industry has issues in terms of affordability and size inclusivity, but sustainable fashion is more than supporting a sustainable brand. It also has to do with how long we wear our clothes for, how we maintain them, how we wash them, what type of materials we choose, what styles we pick, and how long we can make these clothes last. And the issue with SHEIN is often that it's practically impossible for many consumers to maintain these pieces of clothes that they acquire from SHEIN, because it's completely impossible to take care of them in a way where they won't fall apart. Obviously, if you take really good care of your clothes, you will see a longer lifespan of that piece of clothes. But if it's designed to break, if it's not designed to last, that's going to be a really big issue. And I've seen a lot of quality issues with SHEIN that I haven't necessarily experienced to the same degree with other fast fashion brands. I still have a lot of the clothes that I bought from H&M when I was in high school. A lot of the activewear that I wear is fast fashion from when I was in high school. I try to maintain them, wear them and wash them in a conscious way so they last for as long as possible. Sustainable fashion also means mending, repairing, buying secondhand, clothes swapping. And while some people do definitely have more options in terms of choosing sustainable fashion and using sustainable fashion, I don't think SHEIN is the answer to those issues in sustainable fashion either. One thing that I've seen, primarily on TikTok, a little bit on Instagram as well, but when some creators and influencers are faced with criticism regarding the companies that they're working with and supporting, one of the main phrases that is circulating is that, well, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so I can't make good choices. I might as well work with these billion-dollar corporations that don't care about the planet. I do realize that Kristen Leo made an amazing video where she uncovered and she deconstructed this no ethical consumption under capitalism phrase, which I think is really interesting. I definitely recommend watching her video about this. It's very good. I will just say this, I absolutely disagree with that sentiment completely. Obviously, there are more ethical and sustainable ways to act in a world, capitalism or no capitalism, because we do have agency, we do have choice. We might not always be able to make the most ideal or perfect sustainable choices, but we do have some level of agency. Always, at least to a reasonable degree. My big issue with this phrase is that it's often used to remove all agency from the people saying it or the people they're saying it to. It's sort of a get out of jail overconsumption free card, which is highly misunderstood, just altogether. What I think this phrase is doing is that it's piggyback riding on some really real issues in the garment industry, like asymmetrical accessibility and garment work, etc. But it's not really offering any reasonable solutions to any of this. It sort of just becomes an alibi that makes you feel better about showcasing your $700 worth of shitty SHEIN clothing. And I think it's lazy. Yeah. I hope to see more accountability in the garment industry overall, but especially from brands like SHEIN. And a lot of that actually starts with consumers actually caring. At least very few things change when consumers don't care about them. overall. One thing that we can do is use what we already have, try to distance ourselves from the mentality that we need to upgrade our wardrobes every half hour. That's a little bit dramatic, but I hope you get where I'm coming from. It sort of starts with consumers caring just a little bit, and even if you cannot cut out fast fashion altogether, you can still be mindful with how you consume it. We can also support organizations like Clean Clothes Campaign that fight for garment workers' rights. And another thing I think we should absolutely be doing is that we should stop supporting creators that encourage overconsumption or that come up with shitty excuses to maintain their SHEIN collaborations, because it's 2022 and we should know better at this point. Overconsumption and resource waste is everybody's problem. It's your problem, it's my problem, and we are all collectively paying the price for those SHEIN holes. And with that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. Leave your feedback or your thoughts and perspectives down below. I think that could be really interesting to sort of hear where you guys are coming from respectively. If you like this video, leave it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel if you want to see more impact analysis videos. I do this pretty regularly, 2 times a week actually. So there we go. If you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. That would really make my day. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day and take really good care of yourselves. Until next time, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green zero waste content and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!